Do you think HR degree, MBA HR degree is essential for making a career in HR?
Okay, that's a nice question, Deepa. Here's my take. When one is at the start of their career and they have an inclination to work in people management or employee management, it is always essential that they pursue a degree or some education in HR. And this is because the kind of knowledge that they get through that education helps them to have a great foundation when they start their career.
So we would like to know more about business HR role from you, since you are the expert in that.
It's only my perspective because everyone will have a different take on this piece, but I'm happy to share mine with you, Deepa. So from a role perspective, HR as a function today is about creating value to the business, its clients and its customers through its employees. Okay, that's your base.
So Sandra, I would like to know from you, with these 20 plus years of career, what are the lessons that you learned over the period of time, and would you like to share those lessons with us?
If I knew how to write, Deepa, I would write a book on my learnings. There's so much of learnings that you gain over 2 decades, right? And there's so many lessons that we've learned in, I think human lessons is what I call them, okay? And with every passing phase, Deepa, of my career, the lessons have got deeper, meaningful, and the margin for error has reduced, right? My first lesson is business acumen.
Hello, I am Deepa and I welcome you to yet another interesting episode of Talent Vibes. Let's talk it out, an OCVS initiative. I'm very excited today to welcome our today's guest. I have had the privilege to work with her. So welcome on the show, Sandra. This is a small gift from Talent Vibes team.
Oh, that's a nice little goodie. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you.
And there is one more special gift from City Mali Gardening Solutions Private Limited.
Thank you. That's a nice plant. Thank you.
So City Mali is a Pune-based firm, Sandra, and they are into corporate gifting, plant rentals, gardening, maintenance services as well. And they give services to corporates also. They give services to your, residents as well.
Oh,
and I have
nice.
availed the services. They are doing a good job. There are earlier we used to change our plants every 2-3 months if we are not able to maintain them. After we onboarded them, so it is like fantastic. Till like 1 year also, the same plant we are able to manage, and
nice.
they are giving a awesome service.
Oh, that's nice.
So if you are interested in availing service of City Mali Gardening Solutions, you can contact them on the details given in description box. Our relation started off as employee supervisor, and over the years, we have become good friends. She has, over the years, carved out a career in the field of HR and is known to be a trusted advisor to her stakeholders. She has worked with organizations like Tata BSS for a decade, 6 years with WNS, and 2.5 years with Netcracker Technology, which is her current organization. She also shares a passion for giving back to the society, loves to trek, and spending quality time with her family is also a priority. A full-time career of over 20 years. So welcome on the show, Sandra. I'm very happy. I'm thrilled to have you on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Deepa. And I'm excited as well to be a part of this journey of yours. I think this is, you're an entrepreneur yourself, and to begin something like a podcast is a big deal. And I can't tell you how proud I am of you, and to be here is a privilege to me. So thank you for having me, Deepa.
Thank you. So without taking much of your time, let's start with the podcast. So to start with, Sandra, I would like to understand how the journey began, because I have worked with you for a few years. Then I would like to know, how did it start?
Okay, fantastic. So to begin with, I'm one of those few individuals who didn't choose a career. The career chose me. And I say this, I go back decades ago when I was part of this organization and I was part of the corporate team. So there was a decision being made of the corporate team moving to Hyderabad. That's the time I had a choice of what do I want to do with my career. I feel proud when I recall that moment when my leaders handpicked me for a role in HR, and I had a great local HR team who motivated me, and I was inspired by the work that they do. So they came up to me and said, why don't you give HR a shot? And why don't you explore considering that opportunity?
So it happened in databases?
That is where I decided that HR it will be.
Great.
And that's how I started my career in HR.
Great.
So that's a little bit about this piece. But what I would like to say is, when I look back 2 decades ago, I feel so amazing to have taken this decision and to think about how far I could have gone at that time to make it count, and how far I have come today from a journey perspective. So that's a little proud feeling that I hold very close to me.
Absolutely.
So that's about my journey. But
Great.
Starting from scratch, I started with very basic entry-level jobs. It included administration, it included content writing, proofreading. I did some work in ad designing out of creativity, curiosity, and I enjoyed doing everything I did. Until a few years later, where I landed in my path-breaking career in HR. And since then, there's been no turning back. I've been fortunate to learn with experience different domains in HR, like talent management, employee engagement, retention, execution, planning, so on and so forth. So the experience began there. I started molding myself as an HR professional from base, and that's where I am today.
Great. Fantastic.
I was also fortunate enough, or I would say one of those individuals who went back, after starting a career, went back to academics and then attained a degree in HR. So that's where I pursued my post-graduation in HR.
So you have done your post-graduation from Symbiosis Distance Learning, right?
Yes, that's right.
So how did it help you in your career of HR? And also one more question I would like to know. Do you think HR degree, MBA HR degree is essential for making a career in HR?
Okay, that's a nice question, Deepa. Here's my take. When one is at the start of their career and they have an inclination to work in people management or employee management, it is always essential that they pursue a degree or some education in HR. And this is because the kind of knowledge that they get through that education helps them to have a great foundation when they start their career. So what is it that you learn during your education? You learn concepts, you learn theories. So the methodology of teaching from institute to institute or from a full course to a part-time course may differ. However, the syllabus is technically the same. So that input helps you at the start of your career to have a very good foundation in terms of what is it that you can bring to the HR function. Having said that, we've also seen and heard that there are a lot of corporate leaders who have shifted from other business units into HR.
True.
And they have been successful. Now, to me, they're successful is because the decades of experience that they have and they bring to the table helps them to be great leaders when it comes to employee management or human resources. So, having said this as well, I always feel that it is imperative to have some education in HR to balance your career, because today, HR as a function, there's a lot of question in value adding to the business. So these concepts, these theories, these frameworks helps you to be more constructive.
So thank you for sharing your perspective, Sandra. And even I used to wonder, then what about those who don't have a degree and they still are successful in their career? So you made it clear that, okay, they are successful because they have those many years of experience. Makes sense.
True.
So Sandra, how do you upgrade yourself in terms of skills? Because in this field, it is very important, rather in all the fields, it is very important to upgrade yourself. So how do you manage that?
Oh, that's a nice question. And a very interesting one today, because in this age of everything evolving, right from technology to expectations, in my opinion, I feel some very key critical skills that we know about is, say, analytics, data analytics, workforce management, you say relationship building, client management, stakeholder management, so on and so forth. But amongst these skills, to me, the most important skill that I've seen over time is change management.
Okay.
And I say this is because for us, it is extremely imperative to understand that these skills we have, how is it that we're deriving outcomes through these skills? How is it that these skills are enabling our businesses to do better? through people resources, through people management, people resources. Okay. What I've learned during the recent past is the ability to question whether these skills matter in terms of the outcomes which help us co-create being HR business partners. What is the value we bring on the table, and how is it that we disseminate this value to the organization as a whole to create maybe a great culture and to bring in the best capabilities out of the employees we have. So having said that, I also feel, Deepa, another skill which is really evolving in today's era is data analytics and the technologies. When I say technologies, is the databases that we work on, artificial intelligence, so on and so forth. So for us to ensure that we stay updated with these tools and get the right kind of education and what is it that these tools can help us with is important, because that's where we have the wisdom and it will help us to maybe take right decisions when it comes to having a seat on the table.
Sure.
So coming back to your question, Deepa, on how is it that we can stay upgraded? So we would have done our education, say, 5 years back, 10 years back.
Right.
But then it is also important to stay updated. So whether you do supplementary courses, maybe outside your field of HR, or say you look at some specialized topics like AI, data analytics, so on and so forth. So this is information that's going to help you upgrade yourself.
True.
Right? You may not do a full-fledged course, and it depends person to person and what is the need, but this certainly will take you a long way.
So maybe some workshops or
yeah,
some
so you
short duration
attend
courses.
workshops. So firstly, every HR professional should ensure that they are a part of the larger group. So you do your HR networking, then you join a few groups, like you have SHRM, you have GHRC. You can also be a part of, say, smaller communities,
right?
Okay, where you meet, you discuss what's happening, you talk about best practice sharings, because that's how you will continually learn.
Correct.
So this is my advice
So
in terms of
networking is the key.
Networking is the key. Networking is the key. Studying is the key. I believe that your studying journey mustn't end when work stops. So it's a continuous journey. They work hand in hand. And if you want to be the best in what you do, then staying upgraded, staying updated is the key.
Sure. Thank you for sharing this, Sandra. And we would like to take this discussion ahead in the direction of business HR, because that is a buzzword today. And there are people who still wonder what exactly business HR does.
Interesting.
So we would like to know more about business HR role from you, since you are the expert in that.
Okay, I'm happy. It's only my perspective, because everyone would have a different take on this piece, but I'm happy to share mine with you, Deepa. So from a role perspective, HR as a function today is about creating value to the business, its clients and its customers through its employees. Okay, that's your base. Now, having said that, the fundamental baseline is that HR is expected to know the business inside out. Right? With this, it's also important how the function is not only building individual talent, but being competent enough to build organization systems, cultures, and building organizations and capabilities. So technically, today, it's not about the workforce.
Okay.
It's about the workplace. It's not about the people. It's about building practices.
Okay,
from a function perspective.
Interesting.
Okay. To enable this journey in HR, Deepa, HR has also been through a transformation. So from a legacy personnel department, we have now moved to being a specialized function. And this specialized function, and when I say specialized function, we brought in an array of specialized teams. Okay. This could be divided into two categories. One would be your COE, Center of Excellence teams. I personally call them our special forces. And by special forces, I mean your talent acquisition team, your say your comp and ben or policies team, or your HR operations, or you say organization development, or you say, so these are your specialized teams.
Correct.
And the second team is your frontliners.
Okay.
Now, who are these frontliners? Is your business partner, right? So this is how I would put them into two teams. Talking about the business partnering group primarily, this group partners with the business to align, to understand and align to business goals and business needs. Okay. So once they align, they move back and they collaboratively work with these special forces, and the churn of this wisdom or this knowledge or this collaboration is what makes this function strong enough to put in, say, a plan of action on the table when it comes to business needs and business goals.
Oh, you put it so nicely. So, would you like to explain it a little more in detail? What exactly do they do? Like, I understood the baseline,
Right.
but if you could explain it maybe with some examples,
Understood.
like what exactly do they do?
So now we understand what the special forces do, right?
Right,
so
right.
from a business partnering perspective, you have the business, you have your employees.
Right.
Okay. Now I'll give you one example. So suppose if the business says that, okay, there's a forecast in the next 6 months, there is a special kind of work which is going to come in.
Okay.
Now for this kind of work, we would need additional hands of say maybe 100 people.
Okay.
So we will need 100 people. They'll have these skill sets. So how do we manage that? Now we have 6 months to plan.
Right.
So what the HR partner will do, the HR partner will understand what is the kind of business that's coming in, what are the kind of people they need. They look at existing resources. They'll kind of see whether these resources can be moved up to this level, because this could be a highly skilled profile. So you have a career pathing for your existing team. In parallel, they would also work with the specialized forces to see what is the kind of compensation that we can bring on the table for these forces.
Right.
Where is it that you want to employ them?
Correct.
So you will have different centers of the same office, right? So that's what the HR partner will do. They will work with the compensation team to see what best you can offer. They will look at their current employees and see how many people are ready to move. So do you want to do a combination of buying talent from out or building it internally? Do a mix of both, where you're able to deliver and you're future ready for this project which will come in. So this is one example I'm giving you from a partnering perspective. You have different other support areas where business partners work. So like I say, forecasting was one, or moving to a new location is another one, or you want to do a succession plan, or you want to do a D&I initiative. Okay, so all of whatever you want to do should have meaning to what is your business outcome and what is the value add that you want to have for your organization inside out. When I say inside out, is inside the organization, what do you want to stand tall for? At the marketplace, what do you want to stand for? What do you want to be known for?
Understood.
So this is something that HR business partners front end.
Understood. Now, since you have mentioned about D&I, let's talk about D&I as well. So diversity and inclusion. So what are your views on it? And for those who don't know anything about D&I, so would you like to explain the concept as well?
Okay, so that's a good question, Deepa. I think diversity and inclusion is, I think, the topic of the hour right now. So in my opinion, say diversity and inclusion, I think it holds a very close or very important purpose in the HR spectrum. Okay. By which I mean, if you look at some data, and this is specifically related to the Indian ecosystem, okay? I'm talking about, say, according to the recent past, the All India Survey for Higher Education, the 21-22 report. I was going through it the other day, and the report showed that the number of females graduating as compared to males graduating is currently at par.
Is it?
Yes, it's currently reached parity, okay, which means the enrollment, so you call it the female gross enrollment ratio versus the male gross enrollment ratio is currently looking at 1:1, or it's slightly even exceeding the male count. Which means the question that I keep asking myself is, how are we ready to transition this category into the workforce?
That is a great news.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another question is, considering a couple of developing cities or tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, we still have a situation where even though, okay, we have females who are graduating, what next? Are they allowed to work? What is the expectation that we have from them today? The expectation is you manage the entire household.
True.
And after ensuring that that job is done, and if you have the bandwidth, that's when you can go ahead and pick up another job. Right? So that's when you are allowed to step out. And that too, if you're permitted by your family. And I'm talking about tier 2, tier 3. It may not happen in the metro cities, right?
Yeah.
So this is a situation that we have today. So the question I ask myself is, how can we as a system, okay, enable this workforce or this category to get into the workforce? We'll have to, of course, look at policies. We'll have to look at our mindset. We'll have to look at the systems. We'll have to look at flexibility. There's so much to think about, right?
Absolutely.
But there is some data available. There is some food for thought for us. And this is just one example of diversity, Deepa. But now if you look at inclusion, I think inclusion is a mindset. Okay, inclusion is a mindset which transpires into a behavior, into a pattern, right? And this pattern gets converted into how we want to look at the society at large to begin with. Being able to have allies and agencies, I think, is the first step for us to move towards inclusion.
Okay.
Having said that, just because, Deepa, I feel, just because somebody looks different, speaks differently, dresses differently, or comes from a different background, that's no yardstick to measure them in terms of what is it that they can bring to the table.
Correct.
And I think we're so often judged. We have this rushed judgment in terms of just making a conclusion or having a perspective.
True.
So just to rewind, some food for thought for us. How is it that we want to look at inclusion as an organization as a whole, again, to bring in value to the business and to the organization in the piece?
It's thought-provoking, actually. Maybe how I look at it, Sandra, is probably we have come the halfway. Glass is half filled, because at least, okay, in terms of education, now we are at par.
True.
So probably with time, definitely a time will come wherein in employment also we will see the same percentage. Probably females would be more than males.
Yes.
Let's hope for that day to come.
Correct.
And
Correct. Deepa, I'm sorry to cut you. On your point, I also feel that today a lot of organizations are stepping up. A lot of organizations. And going back to, sharing best practices, this is what will help us.
Right.
Okay, what's happening here? How is this organization dealing with it? What is it that we can bring back?
Sure.
This is a lot of food for thought for us.
Yeah.
And we are evolving.
I saw a couple of organizations, like they are hiring especially for, women who are on break. So there are some special schemes which are being run.
Yes,
so that's fantastic.
Breaks.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
So there are some best practices that we all are having, in this industry. Amazing. Okay. So Sandra, in your introduction, I spoke about your 2 teenage children. So those are Gen Z.
One is a Gen Z and one is an Alpha.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you manage that one Gen Z and Gen Z at workplace as well?
Understood. I'll keep my own Gen Zs and Alphas for the second part.
Okay.
Coming to the workplace, Deepa, what I feel is what we commonly call the Gen Zs are people born between say the late 1990s and mid 2010s is this bracket. And what I feel is over the decade of time, generations have come and gone.
Right.
Okay. And all we've done is adapted and we were open to change.
Correct.
And we have coexisted all this while.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
Having said that, every generation is different from another. Okay. And just to give you a personal example, my father is 82 years old. Okay. He worked in one organization for his entire life. Okay. He would have had about 1 or 2 promotions. And he retired. Yes. In his entire career. 1 or 2 promotions, Deepa. And he gloriously retired, with, I think, the best farewell ever that I have seen. Right?
Right.
Now, on the other hand, say 2 decades down, you look at my sisters and me, okay? We would have stayed in an organization for an average tenure of 5 years.
True.
Okay? Now, to him, this was a no. What are you girls doing?
Right.
If you're going to keep switching your jobs, you'll never see the light of a great career. So this is what he would always tell us. So when we knew we had to shift, and we would want to shift because what we wanted to learn from one organization and learn and deliver and achieve, we've done that. So it is time to move to another one. Now, to go back home and to say this for him was a big challenge. So, but then eventually, as time evolved and he understood all of this, I think today he's so proud of us.
Great.
Right. So that's an example of my own family.
Right.
But having said that, so my take on this, Deepa, is generations will come and go. Okay, we have to collectively learn how to coexist, how to look at the strengths of each generation, put them together and just find a way to work. Finding that sweet spot in working together is a skill I think we can possess if we don't have it.
So this was just one example. It is more or less same, in all families, I would say, right?
Yes. I also feel, Deepa, in fact, I think it's also interesting. It's an interesting time that we are in, because in this workforce today, we have 4 generations working together. Right.
Correct.
We have in the corporates, the retirement age is 60, but then you still have people working in consultants and they still pull on, right? So I think it's a beautiful time.
Right.
And if you look at it positively, there's lots that we can bring on the table with these 4 generations together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Sandra, I would like to know from you, with these 20 plus years of career, what are the lessons that you learned over the period of time, and would you like to share those lessons with us?
If I knew how to write, Deepa, I would write a book on my learnings. No, without a word of lie. Because there's so much of learnings that you gain over 2 decades, right? And there's so many lessons that we've learned I think human lessons is what I call them. Okay. And with every passing phase, Deepa, of my career, the lessons have got deeper, meaningful, and the margin for error has reduced.
Okay.
Right? But having said that, to talk about a couple of my learnings that I call it as my holy grail today. The first important lesson, according to me, Deepa, any guesses? What do you think would my first lesson be?
Change with the time?
Close. Okay, that will come in later.
Okay.
That's my point 3.
Okay.
But my first lesson is business acumen. Okay, so for any HR professional, to be aligned to business, to understand what your business is and how is it that you're merging business and your people is extremely important. You can't run any HR framework without knowing what your business is, or what do you want, what is the value add you want to bring to that business. So that's my first lesson, and this I learned over time, the importance of and how impactful you can make your business after knowing it inside out. So my advice here to HR professionals is focus on building your skill outside the HR function to become, if you want to become a great business partner. So that's my first lesson.
Okay.
My second lesson, adapt to situations as needed. Okay, no 2 situations are the same, Deepa. And the way you handle a situation is not written in any, say, in any playbook in HR. Okay, so how is it that you understand the employee sentiments, you understand the business goals, and you look at a way of merging both of this, helping the employee as well as keeping the organization goals in mind, or the processes or the policies, is an art. And that art, Deepa, comes only with experience. So if I go to my first lesson and if I go to whatever I've learned, experience is your best takeaway. Your real-time experience is your best takeaway. You keep getting better. You keep making the right decisions. I'm not saying I'm there. I'm saying I'm getting there. There's still so much. I'm not perfect.
Absolutely.
But with these learnings, it just helps me to be a better HR professional today.
Sure. So there is no one size fits all.
There's no one size. You're right, Deepa. There's not. You very rightly nailed it. One size doesn't fit all.
Right.
My third learning, Deepa, is building trusted relationships. According to me, every HR professional walks the talk, right? And one of our unsaid KRAs is to build these kind of trusted relationships where, if an employee wants to reach out to you, just by your behaviors and the way you conduct yourself, they should be able to say that this is my HR partner, and I can go up and talk.
That trust has to be there.
Yes, and it's not easy. I think to me this is my biggest lesson in terms of improvising, building trust. How is it that especially when somebody talks to you, okay? How is it that you convert that discussion into an action plan? It could be anything, right? It could be work-related stress. It could be a job role. It could be anything.
That's your achievement as well, Sandra, because I've seen people, employees approaching you even with their personal problems. It could be their professional, problems or challenges, I would say. And you have done a fantastic job by, doing active listening, giving them solutions. And even I was one of them, I must say.
So sweet. Count them as my blessings. Thank you so much. So I feel nice when I hear something like this, because these are small places where you can make the difference. And if somebody is feeling that difference, I think it's a win-win for us. What better place to be in if you're able to do this, right?
So with this, Sandra, I would like to know your memorable experience over the period of time of maybe 20 plus years of your career. So some experience that you cherish to remember.
There are many, Deepa. Yes, okay, but I will talk about one which really touched my heart and my mind. Now, I go back 2 decades ago when, I had started my journey in HR, and it was within the initial years, and there was a role that I was managing. It was called IJPs. So you're aware of it, right? The internal job postings. So during the process, we had one employee, and I'll take his name. His name is Amar Pawar.
Okay.
So we and there were many like this, but I'm talking about one case amongst the others.
Sure.
So he'd come to us and he says, "Should I apply for this IJP? Yes or no?" He's like, "Ma'am, what do I do?" And I said, "No, it's a great role and you should move ahead, and it's an aspiration and you're so good at this piece and give it a shot." Okay, so it's something that's happened to me and I just passed it on to somebody else. Is what I feel today. So he applied for that IJP, he got selected and he moved to the MIS team. Okay. So Deepa, from there he rose and he had his career progressions, and I moved out of Tata's. I wanted to move to my next, opportunity.
Correct.
And that was more of a shift in stakeholder management, right?
Okay.
So that was the reason why I selected the next profile.
Sure.
So I went to my next company and then I continued working, and then 3 years down the line, somebody comes in front of my face and says, "Ma'am, hi, good morning. You're here." And I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Amar." And he just returned from the Philippines. He was a manager managing a larger role in WNS. And I was so happy and I was full of joy to see Deepa, how well he was doing, how well he had grown over the years. And he came back and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Of course I do."
Great.
So I think these are small pieces where the work that you do and the reward, I think that's commendable. I can't explain it beyond this.
Sure.
So that's a very special memory. And today when I see him on LinkedIn or if I bump into him somewhere, and it's a very proud feeling. So I have this for a lot of other employees, but this is somebody that I can talk about.
Sure. And I think BPO is the industry wherein you get, fast promotions if you deserve one. Like if you, take efforts, you can, get your career progression little faster than any other industry. Agreed. I would say. Okay. So Sandra, I know you as a person who can manage work life pretty good. Like you would be, on the top of the list if I have to, list down all the
I remember shutting shop at 6:30. Yes.
But then, so how do you manage that? What is your thought process? How do you do that?
So to me, Deepa, each to their own. Okay, so today, there's a new concept, so work-life balance was always there. So we hear about work-life integration, right?
Right.
So whatever it may be for whoever, I think what is important for all of us to know is how do we want to individually strike that balance? And the balance to me may be different, the balance to you may be different, the balance to somebody else will be different. By balance, I mean whether I want to do a pure work-life balance, where I say work is separate and my personal time is separate, or I want to do an integration. And this, Deepa, is I think it's a very long topic to discuss and debate on.
Right.
But each one of us know what is right for us.
What do you prefer?
End of day, when I go home, I want to be happy.
Right.
Okay. And I will be happy if I've done my job by the time I have committed to, and I walk home. Imagine I shutting shop at 6:30 and I have something pending on my plate. It's going to play on my mind.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So prioritizing, ensuring that you do what you can within those 8 hours, and you shut shop and go home. You go home happy. Right? So you have time for your family. When you come back next day, you come back happy.
Right.
There are no grudges. Oh, I worked 10 hours yesterday. But there could be a situation, right? So in a situation like this, using flexibility. So if I work for say 10 hours on day 1 and day 2, I come in a little late, I'm still a happy employee, right?
Sure.
So maintaining this or striking the balance between say integration and a pure work-life balance is purely an individual say. But what is important is to have it. Nothing should overlap each other. So work is work and personal life is personal time. Because that's where our personal time is where we evolve as an individual.
Right.
You have time for your family, you have time for your loved ones, you have time above all for yourself. So my advice to everyone is look at how you want to evolve as an individual. Say if you have a passion for reading or trekking or running or playing a sport, please go ahead and do that. Spend time with your family and your loved ones, because only when you do this, you come back happy to work. And when you work well and you work with passion and you do what you really want to do, that's when you go back happy. So that's my take.
Amazing. So before we conclude our podcast, Sandra, something I would like to ask you, since I have worked in your leaderships, So if you remember, we had a team of 6, like we 6, were reporting to you. And usually what happens is, if there is a leader and there are, say, 6 team members, probably 4 or 5 of them will like you, and there would be at least one who doesn't like you.
Sure.
In your case, that didn't happen. We all 6 loved you equally. We all had a faith in you that, you will not be a biased person or a biased boss. So how did you achieve that? Because that is something very uncommon. And how did you manage?
I think it's something very sweet, Deepa, and thank you for sharing this. See, to me, I loved all of you. Honestly, I think we worked as one team. Okay, but coming back to your question, see, what's important from a line management perspective is you're responsible for maybe 1 team member reporting into you or 5. Understanding what each member wants from an aspiration perspective. So when we hire people in the company, we hire them to do a particular task,
right?
Okay, undoubtedly. But along with doing a particular task, what is it that they want to take back from the function, take back from the organization? So you will always assess them, okay, this is a task. If you do this task, it's going to result to this outcome. It's going to help our business in this way, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the employee, okay, and this is purely from a line management perspective,
okay,
and I'm saying this because this is something that we drive even in HR. But from going back to line management, understanding what are the strengths of that team member, okay,
right,
and how is it that you can convert those strengths in enabling that team member to achieve their aspiration. So if, like, we've had one team member who joined us as a generalist, but was very good in data. Right. So how is it that we can move that team member to being a data analytic person?
Correct.
Okay, what is it? What are the steps that we take? So the team member currently is continuing doing what they're supposed to do, but in parallel, how is it that you can evolve? So that is one part. So career pathing is, I think, an important piece. The second piece is making work fun. Okay, it is not only about coming and doing the task,
right,
but how is it that you blend as a team together? How is it that you can stand tall for each other? And it's not about say a line manager and a subordinate. It's about a team.
Right.
Okay. And as a manager, if you're able to step into each one's role and work alongside, I think it creates magic. So it's not about I'm telling you to do something. I'm saying this is supposed to be done. Let's do it together.
Absolutely.
Right. We're supposed to work on data. Let's do it together. Tell me, what is it that you want me to do?
Correct.
Or if you're stuck somewhere, how is it that I can help you?
Right.
Okay. And then when you see results, you enjoy it together. I think that was our core. I recall, so for example, Deepa, you were an expert in, employee life cycle. You were the boss there. And then pulling you into employee engagement where we had to do, say, an event together. And you're like, Sandra, I'm not doing this. I'm like, no, girl, you're going to be doing it together.
Okay.
And I think we had the blast there.
Correct.
And I think, so you're rotating and working with each one. I think that's been our strength, Deepa. And to you said you were happy, being part of the team. But I'm telling you how blessed and how fortunate I was to have the experience of working with you guys. Without a word of lie, I can talk again about what I've learned from each one of you. Okay, and how is it that I take it back to where I am today, and I implement these small learnings in my role.
Sure.
So yes, so I am the fortunate one, I would say.
Great. So absolutely, it was a fun, Sandra, working with you, and just cherishing those memories. Thank you so much for coming on the show, cherishing these memories, and sharing your experiences, sharing your perspectives about different things, explaining some concepts to our audience. Thank you so much for everything, and as usual, you have brought that positive energy on the podcast. Thank you.
Deepa, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to you, and to tell you how proud I am of what you're doing, right? You've been somebody who'd always doubt and, in terms of taking risks. But the way you evolved today, I can just say I'm so proud of you. And thank you for taking me back to our old days.
Absolutely.
And moreover, thank you for having me at your podcast. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe so that you will get to listen to such leaders And thank you. Keep watching.